You ever notice how we're obsessed with generational labels? Boomers destroy the economy. Millennials killed napkins. Gen Z can't look up from their phones. But sandwiched in the middle, there's this whole generation nobody talks about. Generation X, born between 1965 and 1980. They're the coworker who gets everything done without making noise about it. Your parent who raised you but never needed the credit. The people who built the internet we're all addicted to but barely have a social media presence themselves. And here's what nobody wants to acknowledge. Their psychology might be the most fascinating and misunderstood of any generation alive. Let's start with what defined them more than anything. They were latchkey kids. And I don't mean a few of them had to let themselves in after school. This was standard for millions. Picture this. It's 1978. You're 8 years old. School bus drops you off. You walk to your house, pull out that key hanging from a shoelace around your neck, and let yourself into an empty home. No parents, no babysitter, no iPad to FaceTime mom, no Ring doorbell for check-ins. You're just alone. You pour some cereal, turn on the TV, all 4 channels, and you wait. By 1984, roughly 7 million kids between ages of 5 and 13 were regularly unsupervised after school. 7 million. That's not some isolated thing. That's an entire generation learning at a very young age that nobody's coming to save you. Figure it out yourself. And that empty house rewired their brains. It taught them that consequences are real and immediate. You couldn't text mom for permission. You couldn't Google what to do. You made a choice and lived with what happened next. When your parents finally showed up, discipline wasn't a discussion. It wasn't some feelings-focused family meeting. You messed up. You got punished. End of story. No appeals. Psychologists call this a high contingency environment. Actions and outcomes connect directly with no buffer. Your brain gets wired to think 2-3 steps ahead because you had to. That's why Gen X has this almost eerie ability to see problems coming before they hit. But here's where it gets darker. Gen X watched their parents preach one thing and do another. This hypocrisy shaped their worldview, leading to cynicism and self-reliance. All this talk about commitment, loyalty, doing the right thing, then divorce rates exploded throughout the 70s and 80s. They watched their dads give 30 years to a company only to get a pink slip during the next downsizing. The message landed hard. The system will betray you. People will let you down. Promises are worthless. Psychologists call it defensive pessimism, but Gen X just calls it Tuesday. They hope for the best, sure, but they plan for the worst because in their experience, the worst shows up pretty regularly. This isn't cynicism, it's pattern recognition. This is exactly why you barely see them on social media. Not because they don't understand technology. Remember, they build most of it. It's because they grew up when privacy was normal. When you did something embarrassing as a teenager, maybe 10 people knew. To Gen X, broadcasting your life online doesn't feel liberating. It feels dangerous, exposed, vulnerable.
It feels dangerous, exposed, vulnerable.
So they watch, they lurk, they observe, but they don't participate.
It's strange, like they're not really there.
Exactly, just spectators. Gen X weaponized ironic detachment. Everything's a joke, nothing's that serious. But despite all this, Gen X developed one of the most interesting work ethics of any generation. Paper routes at 5 in the morning, bagging groceries, running registers. They can't control layoffs, but they can control being the last person anyone would want to let go. They'll never ask for help, but if you need help, they show up.
I've got you. Let's get moving.
Your friends became your family because they had to. Gen X respects competence, not titles. If you've earned your position through actual skill and knowledge, they'll follow you anywhere. But if you're just some executive who talks well but doesn't know what they're doing, zero patience. They will quietly undermine you while smiling to your face. They question authority because they watched incompetent authority figures make catastrophic decisions their whole lives. Watergate, Iran-Contra, the AIDS crisis handled with criminal negligence, Vietnam, economic policies that gutted the middle class. They learned young. People in charge don't necessarily know what they're doing. And blind obedience is for suckers. Economically, Gen X got hammered repeatedly. The oldest graduated into a recession. The middle ones got hit by the dot crash. The youngest came of age right as 2008 nuked the economy. They've been economically traumatized over and over, which is why so many have multiple income streams. Not because they're naturally entrepreneurial, but because they've learned nothing lasts. Every job is temporary. Every company will eventually screw you. Diversify or die. This created psychological baggage. Research shows Gen Xers report significantly lower rates of seeking social support during stress. Not because they don't have people to ask, but because asking feels like weakness.
They were raised to handle things alone, and that programming runs deep.
It makes them incredibly capable in crisis, but they struggle with vulnerability. Before Google, knowledge had weight. Information required effort, time, physical labor, and because of that, it stuck differently. They learned to fix things with their hands, because that's what you did. You became the technician. And now they're raising kids in a completely different universe. Helicopter parents, constant supervision, social media documenting everything. They gave their kids what they never had, but worry they've made them soft. Because in the Gen X worldview, being visible means being vulnerable. Here's the truth. Generation X might be the last generation that truly remembers what it means to be bored, to be alone with your thoughts. They're the bridge generation, the middle child of modern history. And bridges don't get parades, they just hold everything together. If this resonated with you, subscribe. I genuinely appreciate you being here. This is Outsmart Mindset, where thinking differently is your advantage. So if you want more videos that sharpen your thinking and level up your mindset, subscribe and hit the bell for more.